CEO of LifeWorks, Leo Ramirez, who is a CEO, business leader in our community, and a Homelessness Summit volunteer, and Edward Berger, who is the president and CEO of the St. David's Foundation. They will start with Lynn Meredith, then Tara Harris, then Susan McDowell, Leo Ramirez, and Edward Berger in that order. Come on up, council member. Thank you for joining. And we'll get started in just a moment. Are you guys good? Was the sound okay for you? Okay. All right.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Meredith. Thank you so much for being here this morning. What a beautiful day to be in Austin, Texas. So today we're here to announce that the efforts of this diverse coalition of Austinites that have joined together to advocate for an investment of private money, foundations, federal, city, and county funds to meet the challenge of housing our homeless neighbors in Austin. And today we announce that we have reached a critical milestone. As many of you are aware, in the summit to impact unsheltered homelessness in Austin, a model was developed to achieve a goal of housing an additional 3,000 people in the next 3 years. And in this model, we came to understand that there would need to be an additional investment of about $300,000. This is over and above the monies that were identified with current budgets and current monies that were in the system. And today we are happy to announce that we have reached a fundraising goal of 75% of our goal. As many of you are aware, the city and the county are receiving one-time federal monies through the American Rescue Plan Act. That's also known as ARPA. Our elected officials at the city and the county have engaged in a dialogue with our coalition and with many members of the community and heard clearly how these ARPA funds could be deployed to build out a homeless response system that would equitably address those in our city who are currently unhoused. The objective is to solve a big problem in a big way. The city was the first to step up and embrace the summit plan, and with the leadership of Mayor Adler, Councilwoman Tovo, Councilwoman Kitchen, and the entire City Council, $106 million of the city ARPA funds were approved unanimously. I can't thank the City Council enough for their support. I also want to thank the support and guidance of the city staff, and especially our Homeless Strategy Officer, Diana Gray, City Manager Kronk, and Stephanie Hayden Howard. These folks were crucial to the success of our efforts. Later today, Diana Gray will present to the City Council an investment plan that illustrates how much has been raised and how those funds will be used to support the summit's goal of achieving functional zero. We are also so very grateful to the county commissioners who have earmarked $110 million of their American Rescue Act funds to address homelessness in Austin and Travis County. I want to thank Judge Brown, Commissioners Trevelyan, Commissioner Howard, Commissioner Gomez, and Commissioner Shea for their leadership and support. And of course, nothing happens without the guidance and the input and the work of the Commissioner's Court staff. And so we thank them too for their efforts. This investment of ARPA dollars, as I mentioned, is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And it's an opportunity to invest in solutions to solve homelessness at a scale that we haven't been able to do before. The milestone announcements of this $216 million investment from the city and county is a pretty remarkable moment for our city. We have much more to do. As I mentioned, we're at 75% of our raise goal. We will need a significant investment from the business community, from private foundations, from philanthropists, and from the rest of our citizens. Leo will be speaking to that specific initiative in a few minutes. But what I want to point out is what we are witnessing here today, that this is a community effort. You're seeing the community will, community support to resolve homelessness in Austin. As seen by the people standing with me today, we are developing a very different approach in scale, in equity, in transparency, the strategy, and the inclusivity. And this has the potential for unprecedented success in our city. And I have to say, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. Since the summit ended in the spring, we have been learning, we have been meeting, we have been organizing, and we are determined to develop the right plan and the right structure to support an expanded response system. To ultimately achieve our goals and to reach functional zero, we need to build on our community assets. And by community assets, what I mean is those nonprofits, those faith-based organizations, those in the medical community and the housing community who are working on the front lines every day with people who are experiencing homelessness. And to those current community assets, we need to build additional capacity, we have to have a lens of equity, and we have to build out a more robust homeless response system. I'm sure many of you are aware that we have had success in the recent past with our efforts to end youth homelessness and to end veteran homelessness. And now, with your help, we can build on these learnings and these successes to address the entire homeless population in Austin, Texas. But I want you to hear that from two organizations who are working on the front lines with those who are experiencing homelessness today. I'd like to introduce Susan McDowell of LifeWorks and Tara Harris of Front Steps.
Good morning, and thanks for being here today. And I just want to thank everybody who stands behind me and literally dozens, if not hundreds more who were part of this effort. And I want to echo Lynn's appreciation, and I also want to add to that there were representatives of communities who are most impacted by homelessness, and most importantly, there was significant representation from individuals with lived experience of homelessness. And if we are going to solve homelessness in Austin, Texas, those perspectives are necessary and important at the table to make decisions about how we do this. Because we can talk, and we can talk very honestly about significant progress that we've made in the last few years that Lynn mentioned, progress with youth homelessness, progress with veterans homelessness, progress with permanent supportive housing and chronic homelessness. But that progress doesn't mean anything to the 2,300 individuals who tonight are experiencing unsheltered homelessness in Austin. They need options, and they need support, and they need opportunity, and they need it as soon as we can possibly make it happen. And so what this opportunity represents for our community is the opportunity to invest, to create solution, to put on the ground a plan that everybody has been asking for, so we can be the community that we want to be for our neighbors who have the same hopes, dreams, ambitions as everybody else. They just lack the housing and support to get there. For the service providers like LifeWorks, like Front Steps, our partners at Caritas, Safe Alliance, Integral Care, there are literally dozens of us who know what to do, and the strategies that we implement are represented in the plan. But right now what we lack is we lack the resources to come to scale, and we lack the housing units. And this plan will make that possible so we can do as service providers what we are trained to do and walk side by side with individuals and families who are experiencing the pain now, so we can help them move forward and live the lives that they want to lead and raise the families that they want to raise in our community together. So that's the other thing this plan helps us do, because it's not enough just to house people who are currently not housed. We need to stay on top of the vulnerability that exists in our community because of the affordability situation we're in. So this plan also represents the opportunity not just to house individuals, but for us to keep a radar out through prevention services and diversion services to know who is vulnerable. So think about it as an early warning system, so people don't have to go through the trauma of homelessness. That is the vision. The service provider community, again, stands ready to, again, work side by side with the individuals we serve, with the community we serve, to implement the solutions. And I now want to hand it over to my colleague Tara Harris with Front Steps. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Susan. I thank all those who are behind me, yet they stand with me. As the Executive Director of Front Steps, it is my pleasure to support our neighbors who experience homelessness and are in need of housing. Running the shelter through a contract with the city is a start, but the one thing that I'll stress is shelter is not a home, and it is not a permanent solution to homelessness. I'm excited about this particular initiative because it gives the opportunity for me as a service provider and others to work toward stability and supporting individuals being members of their community that add value and give a voice to sometimes those who aren't always able to express what it is that is needed. The other important piece about this particular initiative is that we are not just housing individuals, but we're supporting them with the needed services which will keep them housed. And with keeping them housed, that encompasses making certain that services are available, especially to individuals who, it is noted that an individual who experiences homelessness will stay in the cycle for at least a year. And that year will make so many different impacts in the community, and the need can be addressed from a preventative standpoint. I'm excited to be able to hear that at any given time, the 2,300 unhoused individuals will have, in fact, housing. Housing is not something that is anything other than a right. And with that being shared, it is important that we come together and continue the work that the summit has started in order to ensure that this goes forward. Yes, there are differences of opinion on matters, but with those differences, we can all come together to make a difference in the lives of individuals experiencing homelessness. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but even more grateful to be the leader who supports moving forward. I look forward to a day where ending homelessness will happen in Austin.
Thank you. My name is Leo Ramirez. I'm a CEO and volunteer in the summit. And I want to first take you on a little journey. So imagine you're freezing under the covers. Your food supply is spoiling. You have no access to clean water. You're suffering. You don't have your basic needs met. And you could care less about your job. You can care less about really anything. All you got to do is survive. If you lived in Austin in February of this year, you experienced that as well. I was lucky. I lost electricity for 14 hours. Some lost it for weeks. Some didn't have water for weeks. If you want to feel a little bit what it's like to be homeless in Austin, think of what you went through during the winter storm. Think of how your friends suffered. Think of how our neighbors died. And that's the reality that our homeless population faces every single day. They deserve dignity. They deserve safety. And you give them a safe place to live. You give them food to nourish them. Give them water to survive. And there's so many more possibilities that they can have in this world, in our community. So as you think about ways in which you can support the work of the summit, we have a lot of work to do. Even though we've raised 75% of our goal that has been committed, we still have another $100 million, $115 million that we need to raise from foundations, philanthropists, corporations, and the greater community as well. And I want you all to consider partnering with us to make this once-in-a-lifetime investment in ending homelessness and getting us to net zero, and being able to allow the individuals experiencing homelessness in our community to have that safety, and to help to transform their lives and our community as a whole. It has so many benefits for us to do that. And I just want to say, again, thank you for the city, for the county, for their support for the summit. And I also want to encourage anybody that wants to invest in our work to please do so through the Austin Community Foundation. We have a fund there called Finding Home ATX, and we would happily welcome your contributions. But we're also working on other opportunities for entities to give time, money, talent. We have wonderful, wonderful organizations behind me, and many dozens more in our community that need our help. And we're working to help scale them up so that we can address this great need and this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And with that, I will hand it off to my friend Edward Berger, who's president and CEO of the St. David's Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. I'm really delighted to be here with my colleagues behind me and the many, many colleagues who aren't here today who've been committed and dedicated to this really important issue. And I'd like to brag a little bit about them and their work. And I can do this unbiasedly because really I was not part of it. So I can tell you objectively what I've been seeing over the months and months of really challenging work to deal with a really challenging issue. How do we find, in a humane way, a solution to the puzzle of individuals who are without housing? How can we lift those individuals up, our neighbors, so that they can have a better tomorrow? At St. David's Foundation, where we support in the 5 counties around us, health, wellness, and educational initiatives with a North Star on health equity, we're constantly thinking about the social determinants of health. And one of the most profound and fundamental social influencers of health is, in fact, having a home and being able to live a life that is one of pride and one that is giving to the community in a way that lifts up everyone. My colleagues behind me have been working on this incredibly complex puzzle, one that will not and does not have a neat solution. but rather requires us to continue to think and move forward. And that's what this effort is really signifying this morning, is the forward movement of an effort that will need to continue. And my colleagues behind me realize two fundamental things. First of all, this community issue requires a community solution. And secondly, that it will take resources to make that a reality. The fact that you're seeing so many voices come together, voices who traditionally will not sit around a table just because of where their spaces are, those voices have come together and thought artfully and carefully and effectively about what is needed and how we might be able to get there. The leadership of the City of Austin and the leadership of the Travis County has shown us that there's an opportunity here to put everything aside, whether it's politics or anything else, and try to truly work together. We will not get there if we do not do this as a community. And with the leadership of the city and the county, we see that they are truly committed through dollars to make this a reality. And the excitement of the announcement that was made, that Lynn made, about a 75% presence toward that reality is exciting for all of us. But there's much more work to be done. And we are, at St. David's Foundation, we're working with a number of my colleagues behind me in thinking about some immediate needs, grassroots efforts that need to happen on the street today, as well as how can we get those organizations that are doing this remarkable work with individuals today, how can they be given the capacity and bandwidth and infrastructure so that they can collect data that's necessary for us to understand the gaps and the holes and to be able to think strategically about how to fill them. So we're thinking now about how to get a community-wide effort to gather the appropriate data that's necessary in order to identify gaps and opportunities for continued growth. We're excited about that prospect, and that will be our first contribution to what will be an ongoing effort to work together as a community. But this is now an opportunity for all of us to come together. And I think that's why I'm invited here, since I was not part of these really complicated conversations, is just as a community member to say it is on all of us to take the next steps to support this holistic work that's framed in bringing all voices together, framed in equity, and framed in a genuine sense that this is a humanitarian issue and we need to treat everyone with respect and acknowledge their humanity. It's an exciting moment for Austin. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions. Come on up, Anthony. Join us. We have, let me tell you who's here so that you know some of the folks that are standing behind us. We have the Austin Justice Coalition represented, grassroots organization. JP, you want to wave your hand? The folks from ECHO are here who help manage the continuum of care in our community. Matt Malika is here with us. You've heard from Susan McDowell. You heard about Diana Gray. She's our homeless strategy officer with the City of Austin. She'll be presenting her report later this afternoon. We have the president and CEO of the Greater Austin Chamber, Laura Huffman, who's here with us. We also have County Commissioner Ann Howard, wave. We have Bill Bryce with the Downtown Austin Alliance. The Downtown Austin Alliance has come to the table in a big way to address this issue. We have, you heard from Leo. We have, I'm sorry, I forgot. Celise Watson. Celise Watson is with a new entry. A new entry is a social service provider that works with folks coming, doing rehab in their Black-led organization. We have, of course, our mayor, Steve Adler, who has been on the forefront of this issue since the very beginning. You heard from Ed Berger. We have Councilmember Kathy Tovo, who has also been on the forefront of this issue. County Commissioner Jeff Trevelyan, thank you. And we have Anthony Jackson, who is with We Can Now, a service provider here in the community. And so I just wanted you to know who was here, so as you have questions. Yes, ma'am. It's 78%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. All right.
So there's been a lot of unprecedented also been unprecedented spending for homelessness in the city. Obviously, it's one of our main goals to fix, but the critics of that say that there's been a lot of money put towards it over the past couple of years and not many changes made. It still looks pretty bad out there sometimes. How do you go about asking people to help bring in another $115 million?
Sure. Great question. Lynn, do you want to take Diana and Matt? All right. So Diana Gray, who's our homelessness strategy officer, and Matt Malika with ECHO.
You know, I think it's important to note that we have had some ramp up in investment over the last couple years. We've also got over 700 of units under development right now that haven't hit. The fundamental issue in our community is not that our investments have not produced the results we want for people served. It is that we have not come to scale to meet the size of the problem. So, you know, this does take resources, and we know it's worth it. But this investment is also not just about who is served within the next 3 years, but an additional investment in housing that will serve this community for the next 30 to 40 years, as well as investments in improving our system so that we know what we're doing is effective and really makes the difference in people's lives that we want.
Yep. I'll only add to that you know, unfortunately in our community, homelessness is not a static issue, and you know, many folks have seen their housing become unstable through the last 2 years because of the global pandemic that we're in now. And so as resources are coming into the system, we also have to acknowledge that people are coming into our system and experiencing homelessness for the first time. Many of those folks are legacy Austinites, and in a community like Austin that has high cost of living, that has you know, high rents and that are changing by the day and increasing by the day. This is an issue that's not static and has not been static for some time. So the increased investment is needed in order to meet the demand that's coming in for people that are entering homelessness for the first time in our community.
And while I have you on, why should people believe that this, obviously this is different, we haven't seen a group like this come together, so why do people need to believe that this time it will work when a lot of critics say it hasn't worked the past couple of years? Why will it work now?
Well, I would say that the issue of it working is the place where we have to address the interventions that we have in place, the interventions that have been carried out by Front Steps, by LifeWorks, Caritas. We can now, many organizations that have been doing this work for some time, those interventions work, and the data that we have shows that those interventions work. The issue here is scale, is to meet the demand, and then to be able to maintain the functional zero that we want in terms of being able to prevent people from experiencing homelessness for the first time in our community. So it is not this false idea that the interventions are not working is at the root of you know, the critical nature that's been around homelessness over the last couple of years. The data that we have shows that the interventions work. Right now, this is a scale issue and an affordability issue in our city.
Next question. Yes, go ahead. Ben Thompson, Community Impact.
Progress so far, kind of the goals of the summit plan that were set back in the spring, both the housing market and housing market in terms of people getting into housing and it's being affordable. Any estimate of how many additional
We're glad you're here.
Yeah. I'm going to be late for my 9 o'clock. So, you know, we have dashboards up on our website that are tracking the goals that we have in our community. We're getting our September numbers up there, and would love to be able to address that, you know, as soon as we have those numbers available. I can say we have seen increases in the number of folks who are gaining access to our permanent housing programs, and that the reason for that is because the investments that have been made so far around the summit plan are in permanent housing programs, and so we have seen those impacts happen there. As these other investments roll in, we'll see other areas of the system impacted and expect to see similar gains on increasing the number of people housed above our steady state as the new resources take hold.
One more question. Okay. Go ahead, Molly.
I know it was discussed at the very beginning of the summit, but obviously it's been a long year. Is that how this is so different from other plans? Can you all talk about that and how there is a kind of almost a step-by-step process and set goals that you all want to meet to make
So I'll tell you, having worked in Austin over time, but in many other cities as well, that I think we really needed clear metrics, stretch metrics, which for the community to share, both in terms of the resourcing and in terms of the impact. And while the community has had an action plan to end homelessness previously, I think that this really went further in terms of being more aggressive, in terms of setting really what those targets were going to be, and challenging not just the city or the county, but really asking the entire community to step in and to share those goals, to endorse them and commit to them. And so I think that it does build absolutely on all the good planning that has happened in this community heretofore, but we are really stepping forward and saying we have an opportunity to move the needle on this issue in a way we have not had previously, and that is a huge difference we're really excited about.
I will just add that our community is incredibly different than so many other communities across the country in Texas. We come together to solve issues, to address our uniqueness, our Austin weirdness all the time. We've built this. We have built so many things. Waterloo Greenway. We've done big, difficult things before. As Ed said, this is an incredibly complex issue. But what I am sensing and what I am seeing and what I am hearing, along with my friends here who are working on this complex issue, is that right now, the city of Austin, the citizens of Austin, the citizens of Travis County are saying this state of homelessness in our county and in our city is unacceptable. And we need to come together and figure out what to do. And this plan begins to address that. This investment of funds will address that. What's different is that the business community, the faith community, the service providing community are coming together and just saying, this is how it will work. And a big piece of that, Ed called this out, is about the data. You heard from Matt, we are data driven on this. A system is being designed to be flexible and responsive to what is working and invest in what is working. And take things that are not working off the table. Again, I will say that what Susan said, this is being informed by people who have lived experience, people who are working on this issue for a long time. Our lenses are broadened and our commitment is deeper. I really believe that we have a moment and we as Austin are coming together to get this work done. Thank you.
Stay there. Dwayne, I want to shot with everyone. Thank you all so much for coming today. Carmela, can you help me?